All right, so a few more people hopping on. So if you are just hopping on, go ahead and put your name and organization into the chat box so we can say hello. We are going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover in the next 30 minutes. So let's just jump right in. So you are at the Inspire series with Bridge Innovate. My name is Hannah Lancaster. I'm a consultant here with Bridge based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are a business innovation consulting firm working nationally and globally with a bunch of different brands to help people solve tough challenges with really creative, bold solutions. The Inspire series is part of our Innovation for Good. So this is donated time and energy from all of our special guests that we share with our community. So we love sharing all the different ideas, insights, inspirations, experiences, things that they have to offer. So you can find more about this on our YouTube channel as well, which we will share later on. But we're going to go ahead and get started and introduce our speaker. So we have Johanna Thoma with us today. Johanna is an AVP of Skills and Talent Development at Unum. She's been serving with that company to help millions of people gain affordable access for disability, life, accident, critical illness, dental, and vision benefits through the workplace. Johanna is a passionate adult educator with 20 plus years of experience in learning and development. Her team is responsible for leading, directing, and executing on Unum's talent development strategy, with oversight for enterprise leadership development programs, manager effectiveness, curriculum design and development, and career development and skills development programming. So Johanna has a huge extensive background in adult education and really understanding what it takes to create culture and development within our teams. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her so she can walk us through some of Unum's L&D strategy and hear a little bit more.
Great. Thanks so much, Hannah. And just thumbs up. Can you hear me okay, Hannah?
Yeah, we're all set.
Awesome. Great. So welcome, everyone. So excited to be with you today. I recognize many names in the chat. We've got some strong Unum colleagues on the phone as well. So very excited and honored to be able to talk about the amazing work that we're doing at Unum as we really focus on cultivating skills-based talent. So as Hannah mentioned, I have been with Unum for almost 18 years now, primarily focused in the learning and development space. And in my time, I've had the opportunity to focus on operational new hire training, leadership development, manager development, career development, and most recently have really been engaged and investing in skill development. And so really am excited to take the opportunity today to talk a little bit about where we've been, where we're going, and would love to just share some lessons that we've learned along the way. Really want to highlight that absolutely everything we do at Unum, as Hannah mentioned a bit in my bio around really the goals of Unum, is that we in Unum L&D focus on employee growth and development so that we can position our employees to serve our customers. So absolutely everything I'm going to talk about all comes back to, are we positioning our employees to support our customers' needs? And really much of that relates back to skill development in this rapidly changing world. The other thing I would just want to call out before I jump in is that we are on a journey, right? And I would imagine many of you on the phone are also on a journey, right? Really shifting towards a skills first focus, right? So I'm going to share a bit about what we're doing, a bit about where we're going, and again, some learnings and some opportunities we've run into. And I'm sure, Hannah, you'll wrap this up at the end, but would love to connect if anyone has interest in this topic or wants to chat further. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn to continue the conversation. So with that, Hannah, let's keep going. I want to touch a little bit on just sort of where we've been from a Unum L&D journey. For anyone who is a frequent attender of these wonderful Bridge webinars, this may look familiar because Karen Bradbury, the VP of L&D, my boss, and a huge, passionate advocate for learning and development, had the opportunity to share a bit about the L&D journey in January. So really want to build off of that. So what you see represented here is really, again, our purpose of driving Unum's business growth through the growth of our employees, and that vision that all employees are engaged, they're adaptable, and they're skilled to achieve, again, our business goals of really serving our customers and meeting their needs, while at the same time, our employees can really build on career success. So what you see on the slide here, I won't speak to all of it, but these are the pillars that we focus on from an L&D perspective when we came together in 2020. And so this represents a structural and sort of strategic change that we first implemented in 2020 when we moved from a decentralized, functionally aligned learning and development organization to a centralized team. And as part of that, we created 2 new roles, which really have helped accelerate our shift and our movement to focus on skills first. And those 2 roles are a learning business partner role. I think we actually may have some Unum Learning business partners on the line today. This is a huge win, an amazing role that has really allowed us to be that strategic partner. And so the learning business partners are aligned across the organization, similar to an HR business partner, and they're really at the table with business leaders, understanding what are your learning needs? What are those shifting skills? Where do we need to focus? We also created a centralized curriculum team, and that was really a big win as we look at how do we make sure we've got the best in class, consistent learner-centric solutions? How do we maximize our technology investment? Right? We partner with some amazing learning vendors. How do we make sure we're getting the strategic value and using our internal digital learning team? Again, world class. We've got some digital learning folks on the call today that really we use their time appropriately of when do we build versus when do we buy. So that was another huge win in really creating that centralized curriculum team. The combination of our learning business partners and our curriculum team over the past 2 years has really allowed us to be both responsive to shifting needs of the business, right? Just given the rapid increase and the rapid change across the marketplace, we have to be really agile. And so that's allowed us to do that and to be a bit more strategic in how we organize our work as we begin to focus more on creating curriculum for really rapidly evolving skills. So I just highlight that those 2 teams sort of really combine together to move us towards this shift. We just recently did a bit more of restructuring to bring together the curriculum team that I just defined with our HR programs team. And so the programs team really drives leadership development through enroll programs, through rotational programs, through really robust offerings to target early career talent pipelines and really build Unum's future leaders. We brought all of that together in this skills and talent development organization. And we are really starting to focus on how do we now shift to skills first, right? Which is a big shift from moving from functionally focused hiring and recruiting and development within our functional areas to Unum talent. How do we make sure we know what skills we have, what skills we need to really accelerate our movement as we continue to compete in, and again, a very rapidly changing market. So I'm going to pause there, Hannah, see any questions. That's sort of the lay of the land of how we got to where we're at now. And in a minute, I'll jump in and talk a bit about how we're shifting from a skills perspective. Going to keep going. If any questions come in, just stop me. Otherwise, you can switch the slide, Hannah. So I want to talk a little bit about sort of what has led to this evolution and just a couple of early wins. And again, just want to really reiterate that we are early in our journey and we've had some wins, we've had some challenges, and really hope to share those with the group today. So again, feel free to put your questions in the chat. What you see on the left here, I would imagine, are questions you're hearing. Right? Certainly we're hearing them across Unum. I would imagine you're hearing them in your companies. And if you're in L&D, if you're in HR, probably the conversation around skills is likely one that is really occupying a lot of your thought and your focus. Really, what are those in-demand skills, right? As market expectations change, as customer expectations change, as hybrid is here to stay, what are those in-demand skills that we need? What skills are expiring? What skills are emerging? And how do we make sure we assess what skills do we even have in-house, right? And what skills do we need? So we'll talk a little bit about some skill assessment work we have going on. How do we retain our talent, right? Talent is scarce. The challenge of really making sure we can retain our employees and keep them engaged is really, really key. And that's a driver of our strategy. When do we build talent? When do we buy talent? Right? As you think about skill development, when you can upskill because there's an adjacent skill to move someone into an area of need versus when do we really need to go out in the marketplace and bring in fresh talent with specific skills. And then across the board, how do we align all of our offerings to support skill building? So those are just some of the questions that have driven our shifting strategy. And what you see across the bottom of the slide there is really our goal and our focus is cultivating that skills-based flexible talent. So as market demands change and the services that we provide out in the marketplace are shifting, we can use our talent, retain our talent, and really engage our employees, meet their career needs at the same time they're growing their skills, and we can leverage them really across the organization. So what you see on the right hand of the side looks a bit like a laundry list. They're just a couple examples I want to highlight today. Again, this is not an exhaustive list by any means, but some of what we've been working on. So one of the first things that we've really been investing in is an emerging skills network. And specifically, what I mean by that is pulling together a cross-functional team to identify critical skills that are important to the future of work, and then use all of the insights from that network to inform our programming, make sure we're investing in the right skill development opportunities at the right time. So that emerging skills network is really the foundation of much of this shift to skills-based talent management. And with that, we have a fabulous HR data and analytics team here at Unum that has been doing some workforce skills analysis to really understand what are the skills we have as an organization. So that's a huge win. I would also call that out as a bit of a challenge, as again, it's a shift for our organization to really focus on skills in the way that I'm describing. Right? We have a strong focus on leadership expectations and on competencies, and we have opportunity to really break that down for our employees to help our employees input valuable information around what skills they have, really with that goal of taking advantage of those skills to meet the career goals of our employees. So even Hannah, you come in with specific skills. They may not be specific to the role that you're doing right now, but really can help keep you motivated if you're able to apply those skills to meet a business need, maybe in a different area. So lots of skills analysis going on right now from an analytics perspective. Another win that I would call out from a certification reimbursement perspective that's really helped to move us forward in our focus on skills is we expanded our tuition reimbursement program to include certifications. So earlier this year, we made that expansion, and really that is all related to our continued focus on skill development to make sure that we are able to recognize those very specific certifications that someone might achieve in order to demonstrate mastery of a skill. So that's been a big win for us. And I would call that out as a bit of a double win because we were able to leverage our vendor partnerships to actually take advantage of licenses that we had to meet certification goals. So again, that a bit of a double win there that we're meeting the needs of our employees and we're able to really see a bigger return on investment for our employees. I see a question in the chat. How do you measure proficiency mastery, or is it a binary situation? Achieve certification, didn't achieve certification. If the latter, how do you compare employees through this lens during performance reviews? What a fabulous question, John. So I'll kind of break that down, right? When I think about how we measure proficiency specific to skill development, we have really, again, leaned into some of our vendor partnerships to take advantage of skill assessments to help us understand levels of proficiency. So through those assessments, we can determine if someone comes in with a novice level, right? And are we trying to get everybody to mastery level? Not necessarily, right? So identifying what are the proficiency targets that we're trying to move people towards and how are they progressing? I think one of the big shifts with that, even from a sort of learning culture perspective, and for those that have been in the learning space for a while, right? You hear the term, butts in seats or completion stats, right? it's a shift to move from completing a course or completing a program, completing a certification to, do you have to complete it in order to gain skill? Right. So that is a bit of a shift for us culturally of how do we track skills gained and gather valuable information related to those skills, while at the same time sort of shifting that concept of you either finished it or you didn't. Right. Because you might get halfway through a program and you've gained the skills you need and you're already applying them. Do you need to just keep checking off the box to finish that course? If really the goal is skill proficiency, then no. So I don't know if that helps, John. And then certainly that last part of your question around sort of performance reviews, it's a great question. You know, we've got a lot of work going on how do we really calibrate across the organization? How do we take skills into account as we're looking at assessing the growth and development of our employees? So definitely early in our journey on that space, and would say, you know, continuing to focus in that area.
That was a great question.
I'm going to keep going. Again, keep the questions coming. Happy to chat if any other questions come in. I'm going to keep hitting on these examples, and then I'll go to one more example on one more slide, but let me just hit. So again, university and vendor partnerships, work with some great learning vendors, as well as some creative partnerships with universities, both for early talent pipelines, as well as looking at assessment methodologies, how we really want to assess skills across the organization. Part of that, again, really strong collaboration across our people and communications area with our talent acquisition team of how are we assessing skills of candidates. Because if we want to move to a skills-based talent management approach, we've got to capture skills. How do we do that right from the get-go when we bring new employees in to make sure we have really strong insight, right? We might hire someone for certain skills and they go fill a role over here, but we might need those skills somewhere else at one point. And how do we make sure that we've got the information represented about those skills so that we can then transition someone? Again, that allows us to be much more flexible and agile in how we deploy our talent. I'm going to skip tiered learning approaches because I've got an example of that on the next slide, and then just call out digital badging. This is an approach that we're really leaning into to capture skills related information. Right. So again, we've got some really robust, I'll use our professional development program, for example, right? Very robust rotational program. As we look to break down the skills that someone gains in various tracks, whether they're focusing on project management or data and analytics or people management, how do we capture the skill development through badging to then give insight to our hiring managers as we look at internal mobility across the organization? Right, making sure that we're making everything skills based, right? Not I completed this program, but these are the skills that I achieved in completing this program, gives us much more valuable information when we're looking to align skills to meet those business needs.
Jordan, I actually have a question kind of going with that. So I keep thinking like, you guys have so many employees, and as an employee, how do I know if I'm truly utilizing this skill? Like, do you guys also provide this sort of like coaching through that business partnership of allowing people, like teaching people to better understand their own skills and how best they can really utilize those on a day-to-day basis? Is that more of like the manager's role, or how does that sort of come in terms of people just being able to work to their best ability?
Yeah, what a fabulous question, Hannah. You know, I think a couple things that I would call out is we have robust career development offerings, right? Understanding what motivates you and what really energizes you and where you fit and where you want to focus. We have efforts underway right now to really bring that together with skill development, right? Very important to understand what drives you and how do you match that to what actually needs to happen and really meet those business goals at Unum, right? So bringing those two things together, certainly there's a very key role for the manager to play in that. There's also foundationally an understanding that we really need to build awareness for our employees of the importance of identifying skills and the importance, like, why do we need to focus on skills right now? underlying, the impacts of digital transformation. Why is this so important? What does that mean to you to really drive that desire to gain new knowledge, gain new skills, highlight and lean into the skills that you already have? And so really strong involvement from the manager, and also have some foundational work going on to really make sure that we're having those conversations with our employees around the importance of skill development and what that means.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps at all, but those are just a couple things I would highlight.
No, I think that's great, because I think there is like such impact around what you're saying, especially with all the changes and shifts that are happening so quick in the marketplace. And if you've been somewhere for a really long time and this is the way you've done it, you could be like, oh, I'm just not a public speaker. I just don't want to do that, but if it's something that like inherently they might need in their role in this new marketplace, then how do you really get people on board, I think that's great answer. Yeah, that was it.
Awesome. Well, if you want to go to the last slide, Hannah, would love to just share an example. And this example is specific to a skill building strategy we put into place related to building both digital fluency as well as skill with data and analytics. So analyzing data, making data-driven decisions, leading with data, data visualization. What we developed, and this is really through strong partnership with our learning business partners and understanding needs across the organization, is a tiered learning approach that is very flexible to meet the various needs across the organization. So if you look at that blue tier, tier 1, that is really targeted at most, if not all, employees, right? Which is building exactly what I was just referencing, Hannah, building an awareness of what's changing with the rapidly changing markets and employee expectations and customer expectations and some of the new solutions in the marketplace. We all have an opportunity to understand those changes and understand what that means for us as employees, right? It means that our skills are even more relevant. What skills do we need? Where might things like artificial intelligence and machine learning impact roles? That means the human touch, right? Those sort of human-centric skills are even more important, right? So that tier 1 was really focused on understanding why is digital fluency so important. And the way that we designed the module, and again, huge shout out to anyone from Unum involved, because it was a big undertaking, but really to give people options to understand this is why it's important, and this is how you learn more. This is where you dig in. These are conversations to have with your manager to understand, how is this transformation impacting my business area? What does that mean for me? What are those exciting new opportunities, and where do I have opportunity to build skill? Sort of foundational level there. Tier 2 is really a much more intensive targeted skill development through very robust assessment tools, as well as AI-driven content recommendations. And so again, that's sort of back to John's earlier question. That's that target on skill proficiency versus necessarily completion. So pretty robust offering there. Again, that's targeted much more at technical skill development needs. And then tier 3 is really advanced, again, through some of those university partnerships I was referencing, strong partnerships there to advance skill in the fields of data science. And so I just share this as an example because this is a win and great learning opportunity, right? As we worked through some of the challenges of shifting to a skills-based focus, I think one of the biggest challenges that I would just call out is it can't be HR driven, right? Or P&C driven, or just coming out of one organization. It's a cultural shift for our whole organization to focus on skills first. What are the specific skills that we need to build, and what is the best approach to do that? How do we do it in the flow of work? How do we meet the learner where they are? How do we work with leaders to make sure that they have time to invest in learning? So all of those pieces I would just share as really, again, a win, as well as some learnings and challenges that we've had along the way.
All right, we're going to open it back up to some questions. I know I have lots of questions, but I want to open it up to everyone else. So you can use the chat, or there's a Q&A button as well that you can use at your Zoom bar down at the bottom. Go ahead and put your questions in. And so I actually have one while we're waiting for people's questions to come in. So what were some of your first big steps in implementation? And sort of really making this shift?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And really foundationally, it's identifying the skills we have across the organization, right? So we've got some strong partners in that work of really educating our employees around what we mean by skills. And we've got some work to do in that space of really helping individuals understand what type of skills we're trying to get insight into, collecting and gathering all of that skills information to allow us to have the insights into where we focus. So certainly embedding sort of a skills first approach, I think has been our big first step, and we're still underway there. A couple other things I would just call out as we think about sort of wins as we've been implementing is really just bringing different initiatives and different approaches together, right? And getting all the right people at the table. And again, a huge shout out to that learning business partner role of really trying to make sure that, there's skills work going on over here, and there's skills work going on over here, and there's skills work going on over here. How do we bring all of that together to really make sure we're taking a holistic approach as we're shifting our focus to skills?
Yeah, that's great. So it looks like we have Daniel said, I had a light bulb moment when a centralized curriculum design team was being discussed. Do you have anything else you want to share about that, Johanna?
I would just say, and I think we've got some curriculum team members on this call, huge shout out to that team. It was a game changer for us to really have a centralized team focused on creating curriculum to support all of our programs and offerings. We identified efficiencies, we used our vendors more effectively, and really that was the catalyst to sort of move us towards this focus on skill development. So, Daniel, happy to chat if you have questions. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. That was a big win for us of really creating that centralized curriculum team.
Love it. Yeah, Daniel, definitely reach out. I love these connections. It's exactly why we do the Inspire series. So do we have any other questions or anything else coming in? Go ahead and type it. We just have a few more moments before we wrap up. Okay, well, Jane, I have one more question too. What were some of the top challenges or things that you might do different next time if you could start over?
Gosh, what a great question. I think really a couple things that I would throw out. And again, we're early in our journey, so it doesn't feel like we have to start over. We're really kind of bringing all the right people along. But doing that full assessment of all of the skill inputs earlier maybe than we started doing it, right? So we've been on this skill development journey and really trying to focus on what skills we need to develop, but hadn't yet stood up our emerging skills network to really understand what are those shifting skills. Do we have the right business input to understand what those skills are? And what are all of the implications of this shift to skills-based talent management? I'll give you a great example. That's a whole heck of a lot of work, is looking at our job descriptions, right? Are they skills-based, right? We historically had, as many organizations have, focused on roles and job families and career paths within functional areas. It's a shift to really focus on the skills, and with those skills you could be plugged into this role or this role or this role based on what the organization needs. So again, work in progress, but for those that are starting this shift, that's definitely something that I would encourage you to do, is really that holistic look across the organization. What are the skills inputs that we already have, and how do we bring all of those work streams together?
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions here, feel free to reach out to Johanna. So Johanna, what's the best way to reach you? Do you want to put it in the chat, or I'm sure it's just Johanna Thoma at LinkedIn?
Yep. Yeah, I'll pop my LinkedIn into the chat.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. All right. So before we wrap up, we have a couple more things coming up. So on October 19th, we have Adam Walcott talking about reinventing the entrepreneurial journey. I actually had a meeting with Adam this morning about this webinar series coming up, and I am extremely excited about this one. Adam is a lecturer of entrepreneurship at UTC and has lots to offer in the ideas of how technology has really changed and shifted the world of entrepreneurship. We also have Virginia Murphy coming in November. She is talking about how she used faith and failures to overcome her fear, especially working in a very male-centric industry. She is the CEO of Wastewater Industrial Solutions. So if you're excited about hearing a woman CEO talking about being in a male industry and how she's really overcome that and really made a really successful business, check in on that. And you can find Joanna's LinkedIn in the chat here. Feel free to reach out if you guys have any more questions, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Joanna.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, everyone.